This is lesson 40 and we'll be practicing pitch reading. We develop genuine skill and ease by practicing. The first step of learning to read music is understanding the notation and the concepts involved. But genuine fluency only comes through practice in applying our reading skills. If you want to develop genuine skill and ease, the most important thing is that you establish your practice routine as a near daily habit. When students are initially working to develop this practice habit, I usually recommend setting the bar very low in terms of duration, but high in terms of frequency. So ideally, practicing 6 out of 7 days per week. Most successful students I've seen establish practicing as a daily non-negotiable routine, similar to brushing your teeth. Even 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes per day adds up over time, and you will make steady, even if slow, progress and build genuine skill over days, weeks, months, and years if you can manage that. Little, consistent, routine efforts really do work a lot better than binge practices once per week. Our bodies and minds just tend to learn a lot better and make much more consistent progress when we establish a near daily habit of practicing. Another practice tip that I introduce to my students and work with in my own practice routine is that of isolating difficulties. I've talked about this a little bit in past videos, but basically, when we look at a piece of music that is challenging for us, whatever that level is, it can be really helpful to isolate what exactly is difficult about it. So, for example, in the case of a beginner, the hard thing about looking at a new piece of music and trying to read it is primarily that we have to read the pitch and we have to read the rhythm, and we have to do both of those at the same time. It can be really helpful to isolate each of those difficulties and practice them separately until they're quite easy and fluent. Only at that point do we even attempt to put those challenging skills together. Usually at that point, when we first put those difficulties together, so we play the pitch with the rhythm all at the same time, we kind of struggle a little bit again, but then within a few repetitions, we usually find we can actually be pretty successful at it. When we were working through the rhythm portion of this course, I introduced you to a lot of practice strategies that we can use when we are trying to read and realize rhythm. I introduced you to a lot of practice strategies because reading rhythm is hard and reading rhythm is complex. The good news is that reading pitch is a whole lot simpler, and there's not nearly as many practice strategies to even consider. So, in general, this is the strategy I introduce to students when they're first just trying to read and realize pitches on their instrument.
Let's look at an example using J. Albrecht's Ready to Read Music. We're returning to Unit 3, which is our pitch unit, Lesson 8. This is the lesson I covered in the last video. And we're just going to look at this very first example right here. And I'm just going to show you what this might look like. We can just take a moment to remind ourselves we're in the treble or G clef. So the second line right here will be our G. So first of all, we're just going to go through and figure out our letter names. I am not going to write the letter names in. This is because when I've had students who have done that in the past, it has become a crutch and has really ended up setting them back. I recommend that you do not get in the habit of writing letter names under every single pitch. If you need some help recognizing these pitches with more fluency, an option is always to get a pack of flashcards on Amazon. There are lots of them of either treble or bass clef, whichever one you want to drill, or both if you'd like to drill both, and just practice every day for a couple of minutes, just like kids do with math facts, just recognizing these notes at a glance. I'm going to take the time to identify each pitch with no pulse whatsoever. So this first note here is a G. Then I'm going to be stepping up to an A in this space, and so this is a B. This is a skip up from the G. So we have a G and then a B. Then I skip up again to a D, and then an F sharp. And a lot of times I'll have students just say F simply because it's easier to say one syllable. So it depends on the situation. F sharp is the correct answer to this. But sometimes it can make more sense to leave the sharps and flats out. It really is situation specific. All right, so let's say I've identified those. You might just do that again, and that might be the task for one practice day. Either later that day or the next day, you might want to do this. With a relatively stable, steady pulse, I'm just going to say one pitch after another. I'm not going to try to hold any notes for longer or shorter. I'm just going to say one pitch after another as if each pitch is worth one beat. G, B, D, F sharp. And we do that until it's easy. As the next step, I'm going to find each of these notes on my instrument. Let's just say piano is your instrument. If you're a vocalist, it actually is going to be very helpful for you to be able to plunk out your melodies as best you can on a piano because it's going to help you be able to learn to sight sing your songs more readily. So if this is our middle C on the piano, and this is our middle C on the treble staff, then I know I need to go up, C, D, E, F, G. So here's my first pitch. This is where my G will be. And then I'm going to find my B. So if this is G, A, B, okay. Now I need to find my D, C, D, and then I need an F sharp. So here's my E, here's my F, and now I need to go up half a step to the F sharp, and it's here. Okay, so now I'm slowly going to go through again and do that once more without a pulse, just finding these pitches on my instrument. So G, then I skip over A to B, then I skip over C to D, and then I skip all the way to this F sharp. And do that again. I find this key, there's my G, then I have my B, then I have my D, and then I have my F sharp. And now I'm going to make sure I'm saying those letter names out loud while I play them with a relatively stable pulse, about just one beat per pitch. G, B, D, F sharp.
And that's it. That's how I have my students isolate the difficulty of pitch, reading, and realization if they're learning a hard new piece. So first, we just make sure that they're able to recognize the pitch on the staff. I try not to let them write in letter names, or at least not frequently, maybe a note here and there that keeps tripping them up. Then we practice saying those letter names with a steady pulse, not with a rhythm, just specifically holding each note for about a beat. I'm not using a metronome, and I'm trying to avoid holding notes for longer and shorter because that starts implying that we're also reading the rhythm, and it can be really easy to learn it incorrectly if we try doing that at the same time that we're realizing the pitches. So once a student can say the letter names with a pretty steady pulse, we then go about just making sure they're aware of where each of those pitches is found on their instrument. And then we play those pitches with a steady pulse and while saying our letter names out loud. That little bit about saying our letter names out loud while we're playing, if you're a singer, you could sing those letter names out loud, is a really important point. So remember that part of the difficulty of learning to read music is just being able to understand the concepts, being able to see something on a page and know intellectually what it is. That's the step where we just say the letter names with a steady beat. But the second difficulty is getting our bodies to actually realize what our eyes and brain are comprehending from the page. So when we say the letter names out loud and make our fingers or our mouths sing or play the pitches at the same time, we're helping connect that skill of eyes seeing, brain knowing this is a G, hands playing that G, realizing that G. That connection becomes so much more fluent, so much easier when we use our mouths to say those pitches out loud. Know that it's not the same when you say them in your head, but it's powerful when we say things out loud at the same time that our bodies are moving. It's hard at first, but know that that difficulty is worth every ounce of struggle or stress.
We're going to work through one more example, still in Unit 3, our pitch unit, Lesson 8. We're on the first page now, and we're going to be looking right here at this example. We have an F sharp and a C sharp in the key signatures. I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process of isolating and practicing the skill of pitch reading. Please go as slowly as you need to and spend as long as you need to on each step to develop genuine ease. First of all, I'm going to make sure I know the letter name that's assigned to each of the pitches on this treble staff. We have a D, F sharp, D, F sharp, D, A, B, C sharp, D. Before I do anything else, I'm just going to make sure I can say this with a relatively steady beat, and this might take a couple of days or even a couple of weeks to get stable. That's okay. Move at your own pace. D, F sharp, D, F sharp, D, A, B, C sharp, D. And note, I'm specifically making sure that I do not hold notes intentionally for longer or shorter because I don't want to learn the rhythm wrong. I'm just making sure each pitch name is about one pulse. Now I'm going to find these pitches on the keyboard or whatever your instrument is. Here's middle C on the treble staff. Here's middle C on the piano keyboard. So I'm going to go up and find my D. I know if this is middle C, then this is my next C. And my D, my starting pitch, will be right here. And now I have my D. Then I'm going to skip over my E and my F, and I'm going to go up half a step to F sharp, back again to D, again F sharp, D. Now I need to go down, C, B, A. Here's my A, then B, then C sharp. So I'm going to skip over my C and go up a half step to C sharp, and then D. So the next step will be just doing that with a nice steady pulse while I say the letter names out loud, like this. D, F sharp, D, F sharp, D, A, B, C sharp, D.
So hopefully you're still spending some time every day practicing rhythm. Now I want you to spend some time every day reading pitch. You can choose just a few measures from any song you're learning. You can also flip through J. Albrecht's Ready to Read Music and just practice reading the pitches on any of the pages from the exercises we've already done. If you feel like you want a little bit of extra help developing pitch reading fluency, consider investing in a set of flashcards. They're really cheap generally. On Amazon, lots of different options. And just look up treble or bass clef flashcards, and you're sure to find them. And you can just drill those a little bit every day, and it'll help you become even more proficient more quickly.